Good morning and happy Thursday to everyone. We're finishing up week one in administration of athletic healthcare. We're going to go ahead and get started with our first video lecture. If you guys have any questions at all during any time, feel free to email me. I've been able to get those back to you pretty quick, I think. And if it's a question that I think that everybody might have, I just go ahead, instead of responding directly to your email, I go ahead and put it up on the announcements page so that way everybody can see what that answer might be. So really, some of the objectives that we're going to have with this first week is we're going to identify those 5 key features of that workplace. We're going to define the social structure and explain where it comes from in that work setting. We're going to compare and contrast different social structures from the workplace culture. Identify and explain 3 layers of the workplace culture and provide examples of the cultural artifacts from each layer. And we're going to define workplace identity and really try to distinguish it from personal identity. Finally, we're going to explain how workplace identity might be a source of some negative emotion and identify some of the potential consequences of that emotion. One more I forgot about. Identify the key structure features of the athletic training profession. So, in the workplace itself, we're going to see 5 interactive elements. With these, some of these you can see on initial observation, some of these you cannot. The first one's going to be the social structure, then participants, the goals, technology, and finally the identifiable boundaries. So when we look at that social structure, really what are we looking at? This refers to the relationships between the people in the workplace. If you go in and just observe once or twice, you might not be able to see all these relationships between each other because some of them are very formal and some of them are very informal. These formal relationships are really established through official workplace policies. Hey, who's the head athletic trainer? Who's the associate athletic trainer? Who's the assistant athletic trainer? So on and so forth. And that we're looking at that supervisor subordinate relationship. And the informal refers to more that you don't necessarily see clearly outlined. So for instance, looking at this class, think about classes that you've had with your peers. Who's the class leader? Well, that might be somebody, that's different for each person, but the big thing to understand with this is it's not something that, hey, we went out of our way to identify before, because it's just part of that social structure itself that we don't see. It is very informal. So who are the participants? Well, really, we know that those are the people that contribute some form of activity in that workplace. In the athletic training room, we see this as the athletic trainer, the athletic training students. If it's a high school, you might have athletic training student aides. You might have the athletic director, the medical director, other student athletes, coaches, parents, so on and so forth. When looking at these participants, personal and demographic factors may really play an important role on the environment. So what goes on in a high school with student athletes, athletic training student aides that are under the age of 18 has a big factor on how we conduct business there. Also, are you working with an all-male population or all-female population? What's the race of the individuals in there? What are the beliefs? So really understanding different cultures and different demographics are going to help you in understanding these participants. Next, we look at goals. Goals are the end product or outcome of that workplace activity. In the athletic training room, one of the most common goals is, hey, we want to improve the health and well-being of the patient or athlete. More and more, we're really trying to establish the goals in the athletic training room to be more like a hospital. And finally, they're really going to play an important role in the management and leadership in the athletic training room. We're going to get into that a little bit more in week 2. So let me ask you this. In the athletic training room or facility that you're working in as part of your clinical, if you do have a clinical right now, do the goals of that athletic training department align with the goals of the athletic department? This is ultimately going to determine how those goals are structured. So we're going to look at a few different types of goals. Official goals themselves are, we look at the general purpose of the organization. They're often subjective and not usually measurable. So example of that, we want to provide a high quality academic and athletic experience for all student athletes and proudly represent the university. We've all heard something like that before. But what are some of the other goals that we aren't as familiar with? Well, what if we have an operative goal? And that's what really that organization's trying to do. Maybe we have a third party that's coming in and managing the athletic training room. An example of what they might be trying to do is to make money. So they might be putting in some things in place, maybe a physical therapist, somebody that is going to be able to bill for more services because they're able to do that now. They're able to make money in that athletic training room. What about operational goals? These can be measured objectively. That's different than that official, because those official goals are often subjective in nature. Operational goals are objective and highlights how operative goal will be met. So we saw that operative goal of we want to make money. Well, how do we reach that goal? Well, for instance, hey, we want to sell more than 75% capacity to all home football and basketball games. That's a pretty good way to measure that objectively. A non-operative goal is going to be a goal that cannot be measured objectively. So when we see that official goals and mission statements, once again, are typically those non-operative. An example of this is going to be to provide a fair return to all student athletes. We can't measure that. Short-term goal, those are going to be obviously set for a brief set of time. And maybe for a team, it might be to win the first conference men's basketball game of the year. Right? That's pretty short term. Long-term goal is going to be something that's going to go over that relatively lengthy period of time. So instead of just win that first basketball game of the season, we're looking to win the NCAA Division I championship. Finally, we look at departmental or sub-unit goal. And these are going to be goals set by individual departments or subunits within that major organization. So for us in the athletic training department, as part of the athletic department, we want to prevent musculoskeletal injuries by implementing strength conditioning program. So, number one, remember that the goals you set will change with time. They're dependent on the setting, they're dependent on the time, they're dependent on a lot of different factors. Technology. Technology is going to be things that we can see and cannot see. What we think of most are, we see that knowledge, the tools, the techniques, anything that we do to support that organization. Formal technology, our computers, our electronic medical records, modalities, things like that we absolutely can see. But what about abstract technology? We don't really think about this very much. This is the practice of athletic training. This is the knowledge that you have. People can't see what's inside of your head and what you do know. So that's going to be the abstract technology. Identifiable boundaries. This is what's going to help distinguish the people in that organization and the people that are not. So, members in that organization have an agreement, whether that's explicit or implicit. The athletic training group that makes up the department, or the athletic training is a group of people that make up a department in that organization. So, we know what our boundaries are and what defines us from the people that aren't in our group. Workplace culture. We have 3 different levels that we look at with this. We have artifacts, espoused values, and assumptions. So artifacts being the big one that we can see really just about anywhere. That's going to be any tangible object that we can see that is identifiable by people that aren't part of that culture. Hey, they see us wearing our sports medicine or athletic training shirts. They see different things like that. People know who we are and who we represent when we've got things like that. So things like the clothing, the different language and stories, and maybe even important rituals or ceremonies within a group. Now, those espoused values, a little bit different. These are going to be stated values and member representation of the organization to themselves and others. So these can be not seen as easy, but we can observe these. So lessons, beliefs, strategies that group arrives at together in response to repeated trial and error, all different things like that. So that's where we write the things like our mission statements, our vision statements. What is our philosophy in the organization? This is going to be part of that espoused value. Now, what is a mission statement? I know you guys have seen these before. You all will work a little bit on a mission statement. This defines the present state or purpose of the organization. Take time, go look up what the mission statement is for the NKU Athletic Training Department. I'm actually going to post those on Blackboard by the end of today. So that mission statement is going to answer 3 different questions: who, what, and how. Who are we doing this for? What are we doing, and how are we going to do it? Our vision statement's a little bit different. That's going to define their optimal desired state. So that provides us a little bit more guidance to what the organization is focused on achieving at that point. And finally, assumptions. Assumptions are very difficult to observe. It's going to take quite a bit of time to truly understand some of these. And these are going to be some of those deeply embedded behaviors that are usually unconscious and are often hard to recognize, even from within. So it's going to take a lot of time to truly observe these. Sometimes these are so deeply located in the organization's culture that they're actually unknown to the members, even in that culture themselves. There's a lot of different studies and a lot of different researchers that spend a lot of time trying to understand these because they see how influential they are in shaping how we do business on a day-to-day. So some of these that we're going to look at are, some of those socio-cultural beliefs, individual differences, and there's a lot of things that go on throughout our life that are going to help develop these. So, workplace identity. 2 big aspects that we're looking at with this. First is our personal. Second is our workplace or organizational identity. For you, you own your own identity. Who are you? What do you want to become when it's all said and done? This is part of your personal identity. Your workplace identity is a little bit different. That is, hey, I'm in the athletic training room, I'm working every day. That is that identity that you occupy within that workplace with those individuals. Hey, in the clinical, I know you're not getting paid, but once you are a certified athletic trainer or whatever you choose to be, that's going to be the identity for what you're getting paid for. You know when you're at work, you act very differently than you do when you're around your friends or family. The big thing really lies with this is you start getting some of that conflict between the 2 identities. Sometimes they align. It's awesome. All is right in the world. Sometimes not. That's one of the big things that we'll get into later in the semester, and we even have one of those group projects that works on that workplace identity and that work-life balance. So this can cause a lot of issues, intrapersonal and interpersonal, which is going to cause a lot of different conflict and some emotional issues. Luckily, yes, you can remove one identity. You can move one identity to the other. And this is part of what we call in psychology coercive control. So you're in that workplace, you feel social pressure to adhere to one identity or another, and that's going to be when we choose that identity because it fits in that situation. It fits with that group of people. So that's kind of why we act a certain way around specific individuals. So that conflict that I talked about, that's where we start getting issues with emotional labor, anxiety, stress, burnout, depression, a whole lot of different psychological issues that when we get those psychological issues, we start leading to physiological issues, which in turn end up being the result of, or we get that illness, the fatigue, and some of the other things. So, we look at the social structure of the athletic training workplace. According to the National Athletic Trainers Association, the demographic for the workplace is changing. Even since I graduated in 2009, it has continued to change. At this point, hey, females represent your 53% of the workplace. Now, with that, majority of the workplace is Caucasian, non-Hispanic, so that's at an 80% right now. The data shows that it is a little skewed, and that's because the NATA also considers all of its members, not just the certified members, so that does include you as the students. 19% are now working in the college setting. This percent even continues to get a little bit lower because that's kind of set the way that it is. Now I know we just expanded here at NKU and added more certified athletic trainers, but as more and more athletic trainers begin working in the industrial setting and different organizational settings, that 19% will continue to drop a little bit. But because that 19% is so major, we look at that specifically because we want to look at, hey, do these organizations follow that athletic model? And most of them still do. And that means you as the athletic trainer report to the coaches and the athletic directors. Now, how does this play a role in you making decisions as an athletic trainer? And that's really something to think about. Before you take a position, you need to be aware of this model. And we talk a little bit about this in that case one that some of you have already posted on, and a lot of you did an awesome job. But really be aware of this. Does it follow that athletic model or maybe a little bit more of that alternative model? So, in summary, we saw some of those factors in the workplace. Big things to remember though. What is social structure? Yes, these are things, when I put them on the summary, you may see these come test time. What are the key features of a workplace? What are some of the types of goals, and what are some examples of these goals? What's the difference between personal and workplace identity? And what is it called when you can switch from one identity to the other? What are the 3 levels of the workplace culture? And those are the big things to really think about. So in the discussion board, we already talked about it the other day, but post 1, I really want you to create that video PowerPoint, introduce yourself. I know only one person's done it. They had a little trouble. They put it on with the case, but it was done pretty well. Take advantage that one is already up. Look at it. Post 2, we're going to look at either case 1 or case 2. Most of you have already chosen case 1. I really challenge some of you to kind of get outside that box a little bit. Go to case 2. They're very different in nature, but also offer some great insight into things that you're going to see maybe as early as next year. So, when you post an answer to the discussion board, because all the discussion board prompts are due tonight by 11:59. Your responses are due Sunday night by 11:59. Most doing a pretty good job. Hey, put your name, the week number, so week 1, title, we're going to do case 1 or case 2. Answer the message. If you've got more information that you do want to share, down at the bottom there's going to be where you can attach a file. Absolutely go and do that. You know, if you've got pictures, if you've got anything, any type of illustration you want to throw in, please do it to support your answer. So that is about it. If anybody does have any questions, feel free to go ahead and contact me via email, post something on the discussion board, because a question you might have, some of your peers may already have the answer for. Take advantage of utilizing your peers when you can. All right, thanks.